Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we're going to spend a few minutes just touching on the recap of the weekly watch list from last week. So the first thing we touched on was this chart pattern, and as you can see, SPY is continuing in this downtrending channel. But SPY of last week was sitting right on a support, and I was expecting a bounce. So last week I put out a YouTube short, and we also touched on the weekly watch list where I expected a bounce to happen on the market. Now my target for that bounce was 407.11. And that is exactly what we got last week. About a 4% move over the last week. And as you can see, the high of the week was actually 407.51. So we called a about $16 move and missed the exact top by 40 cents. I'm happy with that. All right. I am very, very pleased with that. So ultimately, last week we saw a nice pop on SPY. All right, nice 4%. If you took weekly options, it could have been way over 100%. But once again, just equities alone, that is a 4% move. So we're going to touch on in the next weekly watch list where we're at with the market and where we're going. So be sure to check out that video. This is pretty much going to be a video recapping of last week. The Qs, very similar situation. We saw a nice pop off of the trend line as well. So you can see that we are holding this trend line right now. These are just some key fib levels that I'm watching going into this week to see how we react. But Qs also had a nice move as well, almost 5% move on the Qs. All right, so the whole market last week was just straight vertical. I mean, we just saw an insane rally over the last week. IWM, same situation, okay? Same situation, nice reversal off a trend. Once again, it's still just holding this big old pattern right here. You could put another channel from here to here, which shows a resistance turn to support type of flip. So if you put a little channel right there as well, you can see that the market came down, didn't hold perfectly, but it did bounce and has been able to reclaim that. So that trend right there is now invalidated. So the only things I'm watching at the current moment are these two channels. But once again, massive rally on the market all last week. So let's take a look at the weekly watch list stocks that we touched on last week. First and foremost was Deere. All right, was Deere. And I actually was looking at Deere as a downsided play, given the fact that we had broken this trend line. Now this didn't trigger. I never took this trade. Nothing happened here. Given the fact that we continued to hold that 921 EMA to the upside, telling us that this is still showing strength within the market. So this was something I was watching for the downside. Nothing triggered, no trade happened. It is continuing to the upside. I'm looking at it for potentially this week to see if we do reject this week or not. So we'll keep an eye on that, but ultimately no trade was taken here. Dick's Sporting Goods. So last week we touched on this bull flag, and I told you that normally they do this. We got our nice dip, and we have just absolutely taken a rip of a rally to the upside on Dick's. So if you got in right off of the start of week, that is a almost 9.5% gain in 4 days. All right, if you got in at the low at the bottom of the channel, that is a 11% gain over the fact of 3 days, and we're still working on our target of about that 120 range right there. So what a beautiful, beautiful play on equities alone to play to the upside. Everything signaled that we were going to get continuation, and that's exactly what we got. StarBucks, this was another no trade for me as well. This was one I was watching for this trend line break. We got it, and now we'll see what happens from here. We did continue to the upside. This did not trigger any sort of downside trade for me. So yeah, this was a no trade. I was looking at the gap to fill down here around 78, but this did not trigger a trade for me at all. But it is going back to test its previous support line that now could potentially turn to resistance. So once again, we'll keep that on watch, but it is still in a strong uptrend for now. So I'm not looking to get short on this name. All right, let's touch on the two major winners over the past week. The first one is Coinbase. Coinbase. So when we were talking, or when the watch list was put out, I was touching on this falling wedge setup. All right, this falling wedge setup looked beautiful, and we got a nice pop, and we rallied almost 30% in 3 days. 30% in 3 days. We got our clearance of 72 and almost filled the gap perfectly to the upside. I had someone in the community look into this, and weekly options were up 3,000% on coin if you took that. If you just took equities or just took shares, that is a 30% move in 3 days. All right, now we have hit almost our target completely at this point. So if you tell me how, or ask me how much more upside is there at this point, the trade's already done. We'll look to see if there's a setup that comes back down, forms a higher low, and then potentially gives us another move back up. Something like this. But once again, could go up, could go down. The trade has already played out. 30% in 3 days. The next one we're going to talk about is Shopify. So we touched on this one, obviously holding this support. All right, we've come down, touched this zone many times, and we held it again. We wicked under it, but all candle bodies did close above the support line, telling us that this is still holding this support. You can see it did put in a falling wedge, and if you took it off of just Monday, just say it open, that is a 16% rally in 3 days. All right, so we had coin that ran 30%, we had Shopify that ran 16%, we had DIX that ran almost 10%, and the others were not trades. The last one we touched on was CrowdStrike. This was from the previous watch list, and it hit our first target of that 168.28 level, and then it did bounce. So once again, off of bear flags, the targets are middle of trend, the next major support, which is there, and then bottom of trend from there. So we did hit our first target. Nice little gain there. Once again, I touched on this right as we broke down, so that was about a 10% swing as well. So what an incredible week last week. All right. Huge moves. Obviously, I'm an equities player. I did not play all of these personally myself, but all of these were given out completely free for you to take. So I hope you made some great gains off of last week. I hope you look forward to the weekly watch list this week, as it will be coming out in just a little bit. So I'm excited to share it with you. I hope you continue to keep an eye on the weekly watch list, as I will try and put those out every Sunday before market open. But let's go ahead, wrap up this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you took any of the plays this week, let me know how they went, what happened, and I'll check them out in the comments below. So I'll catch you on the next one.